Hello, everybody. Let me turn some music on and we'll get started here. Getting started. I'm going to clap so that I know when to mix things. At the second I hit play, I'm going to hit my desk. So 1, 2, 3. And we're going. Not that you could hear the music. Okay, well, try that again. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I don't know if we could hear that tap or not, but hello, everybody. My name is Mute Banshee, and this is my solo Let's Play, my solo actual play. Let me get my terms right. Of Starforged, which is a game based on Ironsworn. And I'm going to be honest, this game is probably a little more Ironsworn than it is Starforged. It takes place mostly on one planet. I did a little bit of play before streaming, mostly to wrap my head around the system. I definitely don't have it all figured out. There are still things going on in the system that I have to figure out. But I'm using Foundry for it, and Foundry is actually really helpful for it because it has all of my moves on this list here, and so instead of having to dig through the 290 page book, I can be like, okay, I'm in combat. Now we have some combat moves. Or I'm exploring something, so let's make some exploration moves and things like that. So that's really helpful for me. I do have the PDF of the book open. I have not bought the physical version of the book yet. And I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to or not. I might decide to. I want us all to imagine now a world. And actually, as I say that, I haven't done anything as far as what this world is like. This is, I'm going through my list of oracles now. This is a vital world. Can we roll a biome to see what kind of the biome? So we have started in a wetland. I think that's interesting. Okay, I want to back up for a second. I want you to imagine a ship. This ship is massive in size. It's been flying. I wanted to say sailing, but this ship has been flying through space for so long. It carries with it the hopes and dreams of the people who boarded it hundreds of years ago. This is a generation ship. It has soared through the dark of space until it's ended up here at the planet that was scoped for it so long ago. The planet below is a myriad of blues and greens all wrapped together. Giant continents. Huge island chains stretching out as far as the eye can see, clouds that cover the world that make it look like a marble hanging in the dark of space. Around it, there are 4 moons circling, sometimes eclipsing each other in their endless cycle around the planet. The atmosphere on the ship, which is named the Dusk Song, is ecstatic. This day's been coming really for the last generation. We've been preparing for this day. For so long, people knew that they were born in space and that they would die in the dark of space and they would know nothing but the Dusk Song. But this last generation has lived with the excitement that all the work of their forebears has gone into a moment that they will live for. They are the ones who will land upon the surface of an alien world, and they will tame it, and they will make it their own, and they will settle a new frontier. Preparations for landfall are made. We've got a couple different places that I want to note here. On the bridge is Captain Magnus Idris. He is a civilian leader. He is the one who is in charge of the ship, although the military has a presence as well and has played its part on this journey. This journey has not been completely safe. There have been dangers in the dark of space that were only warded off with the use of the generation ship's only mech, the Discord. Magnus is giving orders, scanning for life forms, gathering information, and then finally he gives the command. All right, everyone. I know this is a day we've been imagining for ourselves for what seems like forever. And today's the day. Prepare for landing. And the ship prepares for landing. It enters the atmosphere, fire burning behind it, and something goes catastrophically wrong. I think it starts in engineering. The engines aren't shutting off right. There's too much power. There's a giant explosion which rips the ship almost in half. The ship is crashing and there is nothing to do to stop it. People are screaming and burning. They're being sliced in half by debris and being pulled out of giant gaping holes in the walls out either into space or the atmosphere of an alien world where they fall and fall and fall until they smash into the ground. It's chaos and death and destruction. The main part of the ship lands crashing through the trees of a wetland until it smashes into the water of a swamp. Smoke and debris and screams. And then survivors start trickling out of the ship one by one, getting their surroundings, and it is a mess. I don't know if anyone has seen like Lost or the B movie. I don't, that's not what it's called, but a movie, basically any story with a plane crash in it, and we get the utter chaos of what it's like after the crash. People are dragging themselves out of the ship, finding that they are, I think, like waist deep in swamp water. They're immediately soaked. They pull themselves up onto as dry of land as they can find. Uh, and they start taking stock. And it quickly becomes apparent that almost 75% of the crew of Dusk Song have died in the crash. And that means a few things that people are coming to terms with. First, there's so many people on the ship because in order to get a new colony running, you need settlers. You need people who can hoe the earth and plant the new crops, and the doctors and the scientists and the miners and all of the things you need to carve life, human life, into an alien world. The other thing is the population sustainability. There are not enough people left to maintain a long-term viable population. People will marry too closely to each other, and 4 or 5 generations from now, humanity on this new world will fail. There will be too many mutations, too many problems with the DNA of the people. But there are more direct concerns: food, shelter, safety, the burial of the dead. That first day is spent erecting makeshift shelters. Some of the shelters are just made out of tree and branch, like teepees that children make in the woods. Others are scrap metal torn from the wreckage of the Dusk Song and heaped into makeshift tent-like structures. There may be other prehabs out there, but they were in the other half of the ship. The half where people didn't live, but cargo was kept. And that half crashed who knows where and when. It will have to be found eventually, but for now it is lost, and instead of worrying about it, the only thing the people can do is push forward. This is where we introduce my character. My character is Argonia. Argonia is part of the military. She's from a military family. Her parents were in the military, her grandparents were in the military, and on, back to the time the ship left Earth. She is loyal to the military, and she is their best pilot. And because she is their best pilot, she has the pleasure and the duty of piloting Discord, which is a giant mech that is the Dusk Song's #1 line of defense. But Argonia has lost people in this accident. Someday this day will be called the Descent, because it is the day that the Dusk Song descended from the sky in fire and chaos. But for now, it's just the accident. And among the people that Argonia has lost is her best friend and pilot, Ayako. Her call name was Firestarter. She died in the crash. And the first thing we see of Argonia is her standing over the grave of her parents and then her best friend. You know what? Her parents are still alive. Standing over the grave of her best friends. And it's a mass grave. Someday there will be a monument with all of the names of the people that died today. But that day is not today. Right now, it's just a pit that was dug. Discord dug it. Argonia had to get in Discord. Discord's the only large piece of... It's usually weaponry, but it has construction abilities. And she's the one who dug the pit for the mass graves. And we see her throwing dirt. It's more like mud on top of the people she once loved. That's bad enough. But now we get into a little bit. As I said, I've played for about an hour before we started here. And I'm just going to catch us up here. That night, it's maybe 2 or 3 in the morning. The dead people come back to life. Sort of. It's a mockery of life. They are more shambling zombie than they are people. And they attack the survivors. Argonia's commander, Kyle Landry, aka Packrat, who was injured during the descent and is permanently disabled, comes rushing to the childlike teepee that Argonia is sleeping in. Harmony! Harmony! He yells, using Argonia's call sign. We need help! Please, we need help! You have to get to the Discord! And as she pulls herself from sleep, she realizes that there's the sounds of screaming and yelling, the sounds of laser fire as weapons are fired into the swamp in the direction that she buried the bodies. She panics and she runs towards the center of their new settlement. And I want us to imagine this settlement. It's mostly haphazard, not even structures, shelters. Behind them, we see the fragments of the Generation ship. It is in ruins, but there's still like a giant piece of shattered ring of metal. But the only thing that doesn't show injury, that doesn't show the destruction, is Discord. A giant 2-story mech, mobile suit, that stands above everything, its head disappearing into the canopy of the tree line ahead. It is a hulking and dark metal figure of hope. As Argonia rushes towards it, she looks at her wrist, and she's got an implant in her wrist that communicates directly with the Discord. She hits a couple of buttons, and the Discord's eyes light up bright blue. The hatch in its chest opens, and Argonia, I think, climbs. I think it's got like handholds in its legs and stuff for her to climb up the legs of the mech and crawl inside the chest. The hatch closes, the cockpit securing, a HUD comes up around her, and the voice of Discord speaks to Harmony. Welcome, Harmony. Activating systems. There's beeping sounds and the whirring of electronics, and then ready to accept orders. And Harmony says, I need to know what's happening. Discord, tell me what's happening. And Discord takes a second to process and says, I am unable to ascertain the current situation. Communications are down. And Harmony realizes that it's true. Communications are down from the crash, and they have not been able to be restored. And she's always had communication while piloting Discord, even when things were bad, even when she was fighting either pirates or aliens or something out in the dark of space. She had the voice of Packrat, her commanding officer, in her ear giving her orders. And of course, she's one of the best pilots in the fleet, the best pilot in the fleet. So when he says, go destroy that thing, she can go destroy that thing. But she's never had to come up with her own orders. And she doesn't know what's happening. There were shifting shadows and screaming and the sounds of laser fire. The people of this world are fighting something, but whether that's aliens or creatures or something else entirely, she doesn't know. So She says, "All right, Discord, I'm going to need you to do a scan. See if you can make any sense of what's going on out there." And Discord hums away a little bit and says, "Affirmative, Harmony. I have scanned the area. It looks like this settlement is under attack." And Harmony's like, "Yeah, no shit. Who's attacking?" Calculating. "Ah, this colony, this settlement is under attack by our own people." "What do you mean by that?" "I am tracking the names of 57 people who I know who have been registered as dead in my database over the last 12 hours. And Harmony's like, "Well, that can't be right." And I think in her mind, she's thinking like, all right, something... They all have implants in them that allow the Dusk Song and the others to track them so that they know where they are. Discord is tapped into that, and even with communications down, can still access those basically GPS chips. So she's thinking like, okay, someone must have stolen the GPS chips or something. And she says, "All right, Discord, can you put the hostiles on the HUD?" And Harmony does, or Discord does, and Harmony says, "Okay, let's get ready to go." And Discord says, "Affirmative, although Magnus Idris, or Captain Idris, is waiting to speak with you." And Harmony's like, "What? Captain Idris, what is he doing here?" "I do not know the answer to that question." Yeah, I know, of course you don't. Yeah, put him on." "Affirmative. Your connection with Captain Idris is active." And the HUD spirals in to see Captain Magnus Idris, who is just standing in front of Discord down on the ground. He is, again, the civilian leader. He is in his mid-50s. He is very attractive. He has a very well-kept goatee that has a little bit of salt and pepper in it. And he looks and says, "Is this channel open?" And Harmony says, yes, it's open. What do you want?" And Magnus says, "What the hell do you think you're doing, Harmony?" And Harmony says, "I'm going to help people." "Like hell you are." "What do you mean? I was told to get to Discord and to go help people." "Look, soldier, we are on our new home for the first time. I don't know exactly what's happening here, but I'm not about to authorize a weapon of mass destruction to go fight the first thing that goes wrong on our new home. I will not have it." And Harmony says, "Captain, people are dying out there. I have to go. I have to save them." And the captain listens and says, "All right, fine. But it's me that's authorizing this, soldier. Me, Captain." And Harmony doesn't get what's going on. She just wants to go save people. And she says, Of course. Discord activated." And she blasts off and she goes to fight the hostiles. What she doesn't know, she's just a soldier. Why would she know? But Captain Idris and General Nisar, Kiri Nisar, have been hotly debating who should be in charge given this emergency situation. the civilians have pretty much been in charge of the ship since day one, and Captain Idris firmly believes that things should continue as such. But General Nisar thinks that a stronger hand is in order. People are scared. Food is going to be scarce. That means there's going to be crime, maybe murder, something that it's happened on the Dusk Song, but it's been rare. Now it's going to become possibly common, and the general wants to be in charge. They are having a power clash. I have started a clock called Civilian or Military. It's a 10-segment clock. I have got it filled halfway through. When I fill a segment, it means that the Captain Idris is gaining more support. When I take away a segment, it means that General Nisar is gaining more support. And when it completely feels in either direction, that means that either the civilians or the military will be in charge. This is a long-term clock. It's not going to fill anytime soon. It's really just a thing running in the background. At this point, I marked that clock forward for the civilians because Captain Idris is going to use this moment to give himself more authority. He's going to say, I was there when Discord needed to be activated. I was the one who authorized it to save the day. Where were you? And of course, the general was with whatever troops she could find. She was the one who rallied people and got them firing at the invaders. She was on the front line, but she wasn't with Discord. And Discord is the weapon of mass destruction. This is going to be a problem for Argonia later. It might be a problem for the colony, or it might be a good thing from the colony. I don't know. Anyways, Argonia, Harmony, doesn't know any of this. She just lifts off and she goes and confronts the attackers. And they are lurching zombies of the people who died in the crash. And they don't pose a threat to Harmony, not while she's in Discord. Discord is a hulking weapon of metal, and these are unarmed creatures of flesh and bone. But on the HUD, she does, while she's fighting, she does see the name of her dead friend, Ayako. And she looks and she's like, oh, that's Firestarter's name. Discord, enhance. Enhancing Harmony. And the HUD zooms in to see Firestarter's face. And it really is Ayako. And Argonia realizes for the first time that this isn't just people or aliens or creatures that have stolen the GPS chips of their dead. They are fighting their own dead, people they love. And it's horrifying. But she pushed through. And with the use of her laser sword in one hand and her 2 shoulder-mounted plasma cannons, she fights off the attack. When she's done fighting off the attack, General Nisar and Captain Idris are waiting for her the captain is full of praise. Oh my gosh, thank you, Harmony. I'm so able. I was there to activate Discord so that you could go save the day. We would not have survived this night without you. And General Nassar saying, of course, we would not have survived this night without you. We have better weapons, but too many people died. There were too many bodies coming at us. Without Discord's help, we would have been overrun. Soldier, you did a good job. But then later that night, the general pulls Argonia aside, and she is so angry. Argonia, attention! Yes, ma'am! Argonia snaps to attention. They are, I think we're back in Argonia's makeshift teepee. She was almost asleep. Well, no, she wasn't going to sleep. She's got too much adrenaline going. Too much adrenaline mixed with too much sorrow. So she was never going to sleep. I think she was even crying when the general got there. And the general says, Argonia, attention! And Argonia pulls herself out of bed, snaps to attention. Yes, ma'am. What can I do for you, ma'am? And the general looks like she might come into the TP, but there's really not enough room for more than one person in it. Really, it could fall down with it doesn't even have to be a stiff wind. This thing could fall down in a gentle breeze. And so she just stands outside. And she glares and she says, do you have any idea what you have done tonight, soldier? And Argonia goes through her mind. She's trying to figure out why the general is so angry. There are so many reasons to be angry about the crash, but none of those reasons should make the general angry at Argonia. She doesn't understand, and she says, no, ma'am, I what did I do? And the general hisses and says, Captain Idris is using the fact that he was the one who activated Discord to gather political power, soldier. And Argonia blinks and says, but the captain's always been in charge. Why does he need to gather political power? And the general steps in and hisses at her. Things have changed, or haven't you noticed? And she's like, oh, I mean, of course, ma'am. Of course I've noticed. Do you think the military should be in charge? Of course I think the military should be in charge. Do you know what's going to happen, soldier? Argonia says, no, I don't. Let me give you a foretelling of the future. We have lost our supplies. There is almost no food. We don't know if the water is potable. That means people are going to be desperate. And desperate people do stupid things, soldier. Stupid things like stealing and killing and murdering people. Now, Captain Idris, he was a great captain given the calm situation up in space. But we are no longer in space. We are down here on this godforsaken rock. And I'm not going to let him lead us into disaster. He's too weak. He doesn't have what it takes. So yes, soldier, I think the military should be in charge. And you will back me. And Argonia's like, I mean, of course I will, General. You're my commanding officer. I'll do what I'm told. And General Nisar looks at her and says, that's right. You will, soldier, and don't you forget it. And that was the end of my first activation, my first quest, I guess, my first vow. My first vow was I vowed to stop the invasion. I did not resolve that quest successfully, so it's still a vow I have on my character sheet, and we'll talk about that later. But I did run through one other vow, just because I wanted to see how combat worked in this game, and I really didn't use combat while she was in her mech. So it's about 3 days later, and the settlement is starting to take a little bit better form. The haphazard teepee structures are gone, replaced mostly with creations of sheet metal. It's still bad. Things are not going great, but they've managed to find enough food. Things are not hitting the crisis point yet. And people are out and about. I think really the main job for the last 3 days has really just been to pull whatever supplies they can from the ship. And the ship is really big. And even though half of it, the cargo half, crashed somewhere else, this residential part of the ship still had a lot of stuff in it. People had food and supplies and blankets and things like that just in their quarters. They're not going to the cargo bay every time they need to make dinner. And so there is a lot of food and like that to be had, but there's so much that it has taken days and days, and there's still more days yet to come to get it all out and stored. That's what most of the people are doing when there's a shadow that swoops over the camp. And then a massive lizard-like creature descends from the sky. It's almost like a dragon. It's got a spiked tail and these massive tusks coming out of its mouth that looks like almost like a seal's tusk. Its wings are spined, its tail is spined, its back is spined. It's got an almost armored like carapace, and it slams into the ground and it just starts destroying things. It eats like 4 colonists just right away, sweeps them up in its gigantic mouth. The order for Harmony to activate Discord comes down, and the order this time is given by General Nisar. And Argonia, still not in the room when that's happening, doesn't know that Captain Idris is standing right next to General Nisar, nodding, almost as if the general needed his approval, and the general glares at him. But the other people, the other leaders in the room, see his nod of approval at the activation. Argonia climbs into Discord, activates the mech, and the mech slams into this creature. And this creature is gigantic. This creature is maybe not quite as tall as the mech when it's down on 4 legs. Although if it ever went up on 2 legs, it would probably be taller than the mech, so taller than 2 stories. The fight is vicious. Argonia slams into the creature with her shoulder, with the mech shoulder, and thinks that that will be enough to scare the creature away, but it roars, and it lashes out at her with its tail. The tail slams into Discord, dealing a fair amount of damage to it. And I dealt that damage to our supply instead of to like Harmony's health because it takes supplies to repair the mech. And so this is damage to supplies. She screams and pulls out her laser sword and tries to smash it into the creature again. Her laser sword slices through almost everything, but it doesn't slice through the armored carapace of this monster, of this creature. And she's almost surprised, and it bashes its head into her chest. Red warning lights cascade across her HUD as she is forced backwards. And finally, in an act of desperation, she reaches out with the mech's hands and just pulls the creature's mouth apart with all of the mech's might and aims her shoulder cannon into it and blasts a giant ball of plasma directly down the monster's throat. And that is enough to kill the creature. It falls to the ground. It is dead. That was the last thing I did. I resolved the threat and I failed again. So right now on her sheet, Ergonia has 3 vows. The first is her background vow, which is I vow to make Dusk Song safe. The people are going to call the settlement Dusk Song after their crashed ship. So I vow to make Dusk Song safe. The second vow is I vow to stop the invasion of the dead. Now, for this one, I did successfully repel it the first time, but then I rolled to resolve it and I didn't. So it became a harder quest. And the reason why is that, yes, one invasion was repelled, but it's not the end. The dead always come back, and we need to find out why. And then I consulted the Oracle to find out if the dead come back over and over again, or if they only come back once. And they do only come back once, but it's still a problem. And in order to fulfill this vow, she has to put a stop to whatever is making them come back. The next vow is I vow to defeat the creature. This is the one that we fought. And when I rolled to resolve this one, it also didn't resolve. And my notes for that is one creature has been defeated, but there will be more. I'm taking some cues from Monster Hunter here. And this world is just full of gigantic creatures that are the alpha predators of their biomes. And in order to fight them effectively, you need advanced weaponry. So Discord can fight them effectively, but they're going to be too powerful for even just like standard lasers and things like that. That gives a need for Discord to be around. And that's really where I left it. And that catches us up. Next time, we'll actually get into the play of everything. For now, my name is Alexis. This has been Starforged, and I'm signing off.